It got so bad with every shot that I made, every shot that I missed, every mistake I made. It was so bad. I was so obnoxious, so immature that it repulsed and reviled me. And again, I wasn't even aware of this stuff before, but I'm like, it was almost like I had an out of body experience watching this 12-year-old kid, 13-year-old kid acting like a 2-year-old, and it disgusted me. And so I literally, the game was over. I don't even remember if we won or not. The game was over, and I made a vow. I'm like, I'm hanging up my basketball shoes for 12 months. I am not mature enough to play this game. I'm embarrassed at how I acted. I'm embarrassed at how I treated my teammates. I'm embarrassed at how I treated the other team. I'm embarrassed at how I behaved. Like it was repulsive. It was disgusting to me. Welcome to the EQ Gangster podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you. What is going on, EQ Gangsters? This episode is going to be about the connection between competition, competing, and self-worth or and value. And so I thought it was fascinating. My daughter loves to compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She, we both started 7 years ago doing Jiu-Jitsu. She did 3 years, and then she kind of stopped, took a 3-year break, and has been back for a year. And then me, I've stayed fairly consistent, say 90% of the time over the past 7 years. And for me, so here's kind of my competition story. So when I was a kid, elementary school, middle school, junior high, I was, and maybe into high school, I was pretty competitive and very competitive. And like so much so, and I was hardcore into basketball. I grew up in the Michael Jordan days and watched everything Michael Jordan, just hours and hours of Michael Jordan. I played basketball incessantly, nonstop basketball. When I wasn't doing homework or at home, I was playing hoops with my friends. I was doing dribbling drills and shooting drills and free throws, and like so much into basketball that my dad built I moved when I was in high school, my sophomore year in high school, and he built a log cabin. And the house that he built, he built a 10-foot regulation hoop inside our house. I don't think I've ever shared that with the podcast before. And so when I say I was into basketball, like my dad built our house around that 10-foot hoop. And so, and it was the guy was brilliant dude. He, passed away, went to be with the Lord 13 years ago. But it was we had a basement, our main level, and then a loft. And the landing of the main level going down into the basement was actually the backboard. So if you're on YouTube, you can watch me describe with my hand kind of how it looks. So you'd go to the landing to go down to the stairs down to the basement. Well, that top landing step, not necessarily a step, but before you started going down that steps into the basement, there was a hole in that landing, a little teeny hole the size of a quarter, you'd stick your finger in, lift it up, and that was the backboard for the rim. And so you pull up the backboard and the rim was attached to that backboard. And now that was the hole for the 10-foot hoop. That was the hoop, the rim. And then underneath it, underneath the steps, my dad built a trough. So, and then the last 5 steps of that, of the steps going down into the basement, you unlatched it and it rolled out. So now I had a full 10-foot rim to shoot at, practice my free throws, practice some jump shots during the winter when it was cold or the gym was closed or something like that. I could always practice and before school, after school, and the basement, he kept it the concrete. So I could very easily practice all my dribbling drills and stuff. So to say I was into basketball is an understatement. Now, when I was in junior high, I went to this church camp every summer in Michigan, and I had invested even up to that point a lot of time playing basketball. Well, again, I was already full blown people pleaser addict, seeking my validation and approval from everyone else around me, emotionally codependent, emotionally needy. So that here's this junior high kid with all these emotional dysfunctions already in full bloom, and having spent a truckload of time playing basketball. Well, after playing basketball for whatever number of years you are by junior high, let's say 5-6 years of playing basketball, very, very intentionally. I was decent. I was pretty good. I had a good jump shot. I could dribble. I had some good handles on me. I could drive. I could, had some really good passing and stuff. Wasn't super fast. I wasn't super fast by any stretch, but between my handles and my outside shot, and I could go both ways. I could do left. I could shoot left-handed too, so I could not only left-handed layups, but I could do left-handed jump shots and stuff too. Fairly decent with my game, my basketball game. Well, so semi-decent skills, basketball skills, mixed with lots of emotional dysfunction, lots of emotional immaturity. Being a junior high kid already, right? Hormones and emotions, and no emotional awareness, no self-awareness and stuff. Very little social awareness, little to no self-awareness, little to no self-management skills. Again, little to no social awareness skills, and I have been very intentional for most of my life in developing a personal relationship with the Lord. Reading my Bible a lot and prayer and stuff. So had all this stuff going on in this junior high body. Go to this church camp, and I'm trying to start pickup games or join pickup games, basketball games in the gym as much as possible. So, boom, in the gym and jump into a pickup game, and it's a big game. There's even a crowd, a bunch of kids watching, and so of course, oh man, there's cute girls watching. There's other guys watching. Oh man, I could increase my social credibility, get some validation, some accolades, some approval from these people watching. And so in true to form fashion at that stage in my life, with that mindset and context. Now, none of that was even conscious, but subconsciously, that is what's playing hardcore in my background. So I'm playing basketball and the game's going good and I'm doing moves and making some buckets and stuff. Well, after each bucket, I am just a complete rear end. I am that guy that celebrated obnoxiously after every point, obnoxiously, like the kind of kid that you just wanted to body slam. Dude, chill out. This is not the NBA finals. You're not getting paid to play back. Like annoying snot, just being a complete rear end. And it's like so like, and when I missed a shot, I would whine and complain, and I'd whine and complain with fouls. Like and this is how bad I got. This is how bad it was. It got so bad with every shot that I made, every shot that I missed, every mistake I made. It was so bad. I was so obnoxious, so immature that it repulsed and reviled me. And again, I wasn't even aware of this stuff before, but I'm like, it was almost like I had an out of body experience watching this 12-year-old kid, 13-year-old kid acting like a 2-year-old, and it disgusted me. And so I literally, I'm like, the game was over. I don't even remember if we won or not. The game was over, and I made a vow. I'm like, I'm hanging up my basketball shoes for 12 months. I am not mature enough to play this game. I'm embarrassed at how I acted. I'm embarrassed at how I treated my teammates. I'm embarrassed at how I treated the other team. I'm embarrassed at how I behaved. Like it was repulsive. It was disgusting to me. And man, like looking back, I thank God that I had that experience. So I and listen, like, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I was addicted to basketball because, and you could, if you're hearing this, right, you're hearing what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. Like, there's no doubt that my identity, who I was absolutely attached to playing basketball at the time. Now you think, dude, you're a freaking junior high kid. How on earth could your identity be attached? It was like one of the few things in my life that I was fairly decent at and could win more times than I would lose. And so like, like this was going to be my thing. Well, anyway, so I made a decision to take a year off, and which was it was like quitting an addiction. It was like quitting drugs or smoking or whatever, like quitting alcohol. And so it was brutal, but I needed it. I needed that 12 months to like grow and mature. Now that's when I grew up and my EQ shot through the roof. No, but it was absolutely a stage and phase in my journey. Now, competition and self-worth. In that example of me playing basketball in that junior high at my church camp, like competition, I had attached competition to my identity. I attached winning and performing to my self-worth. As long as I win and perform well, I am worthy. I am enough. I am, worthy, deserving to be valued and loved and appreciated and stuff. Well, so now fast forward a zillion years into being, now I'm the old guy, and now my daughter is a couple years older than I was when I had that epiphany when I was in junior high. And here she is, who loves jujitsu. Well, and loves competing in jujitsu. And what's fascinating is, because I'm asking her mindset, like, because we've already been to a couple of her competitions, and both have been, she's been calm as pond water. And now I haven't told her this. I don't even show this. Like she can't tell by looking at me, but I'm freaking out inside. I am freaking out inside. And so, and I've been wondering, like, man, like, how is she staying so calm, and how am I freaking out so much? And, and I've asked her, like, what is your mindset when it comes to competing? And she's like, I enjoy it. It's fun to me. I think she said, like, seeing how her skills match up to people outside the gym that we train at and stuff. And, she's like, and I do have goals. Like, I want to, there's these different tournaments where you can get a belt, like an actual, like a MMA belt, if UFC, obviously not that fancy, but, but you can win a belt, you can win a sword. If you, win first place, if you get a gold, so to speak. And so anyway, they do medals, they do swords, they do belts. So she's like, yeah, I want to get, I've got a couple silvers, but I want to get a gold. I want to get a belt. I want to get a sword. And, and so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But she's like, but if I don't, like, I'm fine with that too. Like, I don't care. Cause a lot of times too, she is, she, there are not as many ladies, girls that do jujitsu as guys do. And so a lot of times for at least her early tournaments, she's going up against boys. And, you know, starting in your junior high, a lot of boys' strength starts to exponentially grow, and girls not as much. Their strength muscles are not don't grow in the same percentage rate as boys do. And so, she's had some tough battles, and she's lost some and she's won some against boys. And but what's been fascinating for me is her mindset about competing, because inside I'm like, man, I am freaking out. And I'm like, man, why am I freaking out so much? Why is this so hard for me to just watch her? Let alone I'm not even competing. And then I'm like, I get half tempted, like, man, maybe I should compete. Well, I've got a set of reasons why I don't compete, and a couple of those is because of what jujitsu is for me. For me, I've shared with you all, jujitsu is very much like my therapy. It's mentally good for me, emotionally good for me, physically good for me, even spiritually. A lot of talking to God and asking God to help me grow, you know, and reveal areas of my life, like this one, for example, that I haven't maybe surrendered or submitted or committed to Him yet. And this is one example. And so for me, jujitsu is such a big thing for me. And in competition, you're going, it's 100%. In practice, you're going 60 to 80%. Sometimes you can bump it up to 100 if you want to, but only with a partner that you trust. Because when you go 100%, if you're going with a partner who is not as technical, the chance for injury increases. And so that's number one. Number two is, because the chance of injury increases when you're going 100% in competition, I don't know those training partners that I would be competing against. For me, I get real I don't want to get injured. And it's funny that I'm saying that, because I got injured in training about 3 weeks ago. I'm rehabbing a shoulder and a knee right now, from training. So just because I don't compete doesn't mean you're not going to get injured when you're doing jujitsu and training. But just your chances, I think, increase for me going in competing. So anyway, all that to say this. I'm not going to compete. I'm not trying to be some world, Conor McGregor guy in jujitsu, Hoist Gracie or something like that in jujitsu. In my second half of my life here, that's just not my goal. For me, it's too important as my regular routine and my as a therapy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that I don't want to compromise or increase that risk of not being able to do it by getting injured in a competition just for a belt or a medal or whatever else. I get enough competition just competing against the folks in my gym, or even open mats if I go to visit other open mats, let alone going into some competition. Now, that being said, I do appreciate and understand all the benefits of competing. Like, again, for our daughter, I love that she loves competing, because the stakes are higher than in a regular competition. So there's, you've got a whole bunch of people watching, you've got judges, you've got buzzers, you've got a scoreboard, you've got all kinds of different things that go on to increase the stakes and increase the potential for managing emotions and more intense emotions and stuff than you normally would in a regular practice. So I appreciate that. And I understand, man, that's the closer you can get to a real life combat scenario, the better. And in this case, that's competition. What I didn't realize was the reason why I was getting so spun up about competing and even just watching my daughter compete is because I still had attached subconsciously my identity, worth, and value into competing. That, oh, well, if you win, obviously that means you're enough, you're good, you're solid, all that kind of stuff. But if you lose, that means you're not good, you're not worthy, you're undeserving, you're not enough. And I just had that epiphany. I want to share that with you all. How do you feel about competing? Just in anything. I think it's great to compete because it gets you out of your comfort zone. That's why one of the reasons why I love jujitsu. For me, again, regular class is competition for me. So I think it's excellent to have that somewhere in your life. And what is your relationship between your identity, your worth, value, and competing, putting yourself out there? Just want to throw that out there, that connection that I had. Hopefully it adds value to you. Thank you for being a part of this journey, growth journey with me.